But if you're doing major renovations, there's some really simple things that you can do to really get it up there. I mean, you know, going for a 10-star is great, and it's a great project to be involved in, but you know, if everyone's bringing their renovations up to a sort of 6 or 7 star, that would be, you know, wonderful. So just simple things like, you know, we had the existing 90mm framing, and the client wanted vertical timber on there, so rather than pull out all the nogs and put in new nogs at the different centres, we just ran an extra batten around the outside, which we filled with an extra layer of insulation. Cost-wise, was there any extra cost? Because there was a lot less labour in it. Because I mean, if you're doing those nogs,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so very, you know, no real extra cost. Maybe the insulation, but then your walls are R3, you know, from R2.
An extra nail for it being to make it structural.
Yeah, yeah. And then probably one of the other things I just wanted to touch on was the slab insulation. So an existing house with an existing concrete floor, no, we don't know if there was any polythene underneath or anything like that. That was probably my biggest concern when we started out the job. But you know, R1.8 with a 50mm polystyrene around the outside, and we waterproofed on the top. Really simple. I mean, we had to up the R values in the new parts of the floor to sort of make the whole thermal performance of the house work, but you know, we got there in the end. So like I say, there's so many companies. I mean, these are all the guys who we said, you know, we're doing this job, are you interested in getting involved? And they're all like, yeah, hell yeah, we'll give you this and we'll, you know, help you out with that. So there's lots of people that are really interested in this stuff and really getting into it. Probably my favourite one at the moment is Green Gorilla. Does anyone know Green Gorilla or what they do? Yeah, Bob does now. Yeah, so they recycle rubbish. So you know, you don't have to sort it out on site, which, you know, you just chuck it in a bin like you normally would on any building site. Your 9 cubic metre bins. They take it over to their plant and recycle 80% of what they put through that plant. So that's, you know, their bins are, I think, about $20 or $30 dearer than, you know, your standard 9 cubic metre, but you know, it's all being recycled. Things to watch out for. When you're doing these high-performing homes, everything matters. And I've got the builder sitting in front of me, so I won't go too hard on them. But just watching out, like we did a separate plan for each category, which, you know, we ended up with 40 pages, and I think it might have been a bit much for the builders on site to read. And then we sort of got pinged for, so like in the garage door, we had it swinging into the garage, and the builders on site changed it around. That gave us, took a bit of a knock with our LifeMark rating for that, because we couldn't get the wheelchair into the door, but LifeMark was alright because we had plenty of points, and builders ended up moving the whole hallway wall over to give us that access down there. So we got through that all right, but just those little details, making sure what's been planned and what's been thought about in detail happens on site. Probably the most surprising thing for me was the hot water. Existing gas, so we ended up not putting the solar on, just using the existing gas with the instant hot water. We just got smashed. I think that cost us about 5 points, and when you're going for the 10-star rating, you know, every 0.2 of a point sort of counts. So we're actually in talks, well, Zane's in talks with Reams. How's it going?
Just talked to them today, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're going to be coming through, which is good.
They're going to do it?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. So instant gas is coming out, and solar, are we doing solar gas or solar power?
Yeah, the solar, and we've got the option of going solar gas or solar power as a boost. Yeah. Yeah.
So we might as well just get rid of the gas. Yeah. Sorry, we'll talk about that later. Solar power would be better, yeah, because the gas to site is really, really inefficient, and that really surprised me. It's natural gas. I mean, natural, it should be good. So I'm going to pass you on to Lester now, so yeah, I'm really interested to hear what you've got to say. So yeah, thanks everyone.
Well, I'm getting my coat off because I'm very excited about what you guys are up to. I'm meant to be retired. I'm the guy that started off CMS many years ago in 1985, and in 1992 I launched a program in New Zealand called Future Proof Building, because I believe we need a better energy efficient buildings, better sound control, better space management, etc, etc. I wanted something that wasn't legislative. I wanted something that the consumers pulled through and demanded, and I was nearly there. And I sold it to Carter's because they said they were going to take it and drive it forward to the consumer, just like we did with the Jib Living Solution system, and of course they didn't. So I ended up retired with some money in the bank and disappointed to what happened. My 2-year contract, I think I lasted a year because the corporate wasn't delivering what I passionately believe they should do. That's what I'm not here to talk about tonight. But before I start, I've actually built a home in Baselands, and I'll host a meeting if you want to. I have 5 wind generators on my back lawn, vertical wind generators. I have 3.5 kilowatts, today it's nearly finished, will be 5.5 kilowatts of solar power, and I have the first 10 kVA Panasonic storage battery. And I've spent $30,000 pissing around doing this. And people say, you're stupid, Haycock. And I said, look, I know I left school on the 8th of 6th, 1972 at 15, but why am I stupid? And they said, well, you know, how much do you spend on power in a year? And I said, $3,000. And they said, well, that's going to 10-year payback. And I said, why do you dickheads look at that all the time? What the hell is wrong with you? I didn't go to school, I can't add up, read or write, but I'll put $30,000 on my roof and I don't have a power bill. So that's a 10% return. Oh, I suppose if you look at it like that, it's not a bad idea. I've done it. I built a house with 140 frames, stuck the R4 rating in the wall. I put insulated floors in, and my wife is that hot she doesn't wear many clothes now, so it's good. So that's the benefit, which we can't publicise. But I'm meant to be retired, and I'm pretty passionate about this whole thing, and that's why I'm passionate about Mammoth. And so I set up a little company called Trade Innovations, and no one wanted to hear me. But good old Bunnings heard me, because the other little pet subject I'm a bit tired about is this monopolistic country we live in, which is held together. We pay too much for everything because the way our system is and the monopolies are. I'm not going to go there tonight because I've already got the mafia after me. But you'll see, I looked at how can we build buildings better? How can we be creative? How can we do things different? So one of my goals is when I retire, and when I do build my lock up and leave house, which won't be too far away, maybe a year or two, I'm building a house with a rooftop garden. Because why would we take a piece of the beautiful earth? You Google Earth down and see the earth. When you buy a section, you own this much of the earth. That's yours. What a privilege. Why would you stick a damn house on the record? Let's put the earth on the roof. Let's put the spa pool up there, the little veggie garden. We can't all face north and get the sun, but we could live up there and get it. So when I go to Baltimore and cities like that, and I look out at my friend's apartment, and there's all these rows of terraced houses like Coronation Street, built years ago, they've all got rooftop gardens. I see kids riding little bikes around, I see people in spa pools, I see people gardening. Wonderful. So I've actually got a developer who I work with at the moment, considering building some terraced houses in Auckland, all with rooftop gardens, with all these crazy ideas about over here. So I'm sorry for that, Justin. I'm here to talk about some of the things. But I'm very passionate about what you guys are talking about, and I believe the only way to make change is pull it through with the consumer, forget legislation, forget I've had politicians ringing me saying, Lester, can you give us some stories? All they want to score brownie points is because it's election year, and I just tell them to piss off. Okay? Because what we're doing is something different. I came across Max Raft through Bunnings, because Des said to me, you know, we've got to build floors better. He said, and the good thing about Bunnings, they're not part of they don't make anything, they don't produce anything, they just want to do things different. And so he said, you see Max Raft? I said, no, I haven't. But there's a family company in Queenstown, a couple of chippies decided, let's build a 4.5R rated thermally broken floor. And they did. And so we're promoting that, because what we're saying to people, tomorrow anyone can build any piece of crap in a rising market and you can sell it. And ho ho ho, you were successful. That's nonsense. Tomorrow you need to build a different mousetrap to catch the mouse. Tomorrow is a different marketplace, and it's going to be the difference. So I'll share where I'm here with my developer hat on shortly. the max raft was an interesting thing. So one of the developers I work with is passionate about this whole process. So I said, well, how about allowing your project to become a trade innovations partner project? He didn't say, how much is it going to cost me more? He said, well, what's the benefits? And I said, well, this is it. So we went and sold the sales team. So the sales team now unfortunately the project has been shelved for another 6 to 9 months because they're doing a whole rezoning because he's got this whole social bent he wants to do. But over at Market Cove in Auckland, there's 1,500 houses going in, and they're going to be social houses, they're going to be everything they want, and I'm going to make sure they're super homes because the developer's passionate about it. And so they set up a sales office and they started selling them. And we produced the book, and we trained the salespeople to sell this. First of all, they didn't want to hear about it. They're on commission, they just want to sell them and get their money. They don't care. Oh, you can't sell them that much, Lester, it's going to cost more money. I said, bullshit, let me just tell you. You sell it like this. So I went and trained them, and I brought them into I've got a little thing called an innovation hub in Penrose, which you're welcome to come and visit. And I said, let's put these screens up and show the people. So they say to the people, welcome, Market Cove, these are going to be apartments, these are going to be tourist houses, blah, 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 blah. But hey, we're not putting ordinary concrete on the floor, we're putting max raft, 4.5R rated thermally broken floors, and there's a demonstration of it. That's the sort of floor we're putting in. Oh, really, says the lady. We're not using any timber, we're using J-frame, because it's straight, it's framed. Now, the benefits for the builder is that it doesn't have to straighten the frames up, blah, blah. For you, Mrs. Jones, the benefit is when you sit in your lounge wall, you won't see a wobbly wall because the frame's straight. And guess what? We're even building frames now with no knobs. Why do we need knobs? What the hell's a knob for? If we build the thing straight and put an OSB on the outside or a rigid air barrier, we can produce a wall which is straight and quick, and we can do and so Market Cove is designed right now where the frames are going to come out of the factory with the rigid air barrier on and go straight up. We worked out how to line it up. Oh, but how do you straighten the walls up, said the builders. We have a double stud, won't for you tonight, we've worked it all. So we're dropping J-frames on that site with a rigid air barrier on the outside. Now, of course, it comes to that, we take the knobs out, we've got a problem. Because the knobs are there to hold the insulation from slumping. My issue is, I was invited to go with a group of builders to the Pacific Builders Coast Conference last year in San Francisco. So we sat down, and these guys build houses, like, you know, thousands of them. You know, how you going, mate? I only built 4,000. Oh, you do 5,000? Well, that's good. And you sit down with these guys, and they're intriguing. And so I learned all sorts of things about building, which I won't bore you tonight. But we went to the product displays outside, and I couldn't find any insulation except for sprayed foam, activated by soya beans. So it's the new green foam. So I said to this guy, where's your fiberglass insulation? Oh, don't use that in San Francisco anymore, or the Pacific Coast. Why is that? Well, it doesn't work. What do you mean it doesn't work? It's used all around the world. Well, the problem is, mate, did you know that if you don't fit it properly and you get some gaps, it doesn't work? I go, yeah, really, we all know that. And he said, of course, the other problem is, mate, you know, the contractors, they stuff it in the walls as fast as they can to make some money. And he said, 10% compression is 10% loss. He said, I challenge you anywhere in your country to go and put a straight edge across the timber frame and tell me that insulation is completely 90 mils the way it was tested in the laboratory. He said, so the San Francisco government now calls for in situ testing. So you can have whatever you like on the bag, R-point this, R-point that. They want to know what it's like on the wall. How is it installed around the pipes, around the switches. So half the companies fail. Then they called for a 4-year aged insulation test. And that's coming into legislation very shortly. So whoever is in charge here, I'll get that document so you can follow it through. And the government, so San Francisco now is saying, you can't prove that the insulation is working in 4 years, you can't put it in the building. So there was no insulation like we know, other than the sprayed stuff. And I said, have you heard of Mammoth? And I said, no. So I had my little book with me. I said, well, what's what we do in New Zealand? I said, this is recycled milk bottles made in East Tamaki, and these guys spent millions of dollars making a machine to make polyester. And, oh, polyester's old news, Mr. Haycock. I said, no. They make spring fit, tension fit, non-compressible insulation. So it jams in between the studs. It doesn't sink, and it can't slump, and you can't compress it. And then it works. And the guy said, you're onto something there, mate. It was interesting. So they hadn't heard of it. I believe this is world-class insulation. I've done houses myself, renovations, where I just popped underneath, slipped it up, it doesn't move, it's still there. I was on the weekend, I was down mowing the lawns at the beach house, and I was looking up, the insulation is just, it hasn't moved. And there's no strings, nothing holding it up, and it's working beautifully. I'm just so convinced. And people say to me, oh, but it's too dear. And I said, but too dear against what? Shit that doesn't work? I mean, I just get so angry when people tell me that something's too dear against something that doesn't work. So then I have all the other insulation people say to me, and I say, listen, don't get me wrong, all insulation works if you can prove that it hasn't been compressed, hasn't got any gaps, and it ain't going to slump, and it's not going to go down over the years. Prove that to me, and give me a hat and I'll eat it. And they can't. So when I went over to Shanghai 4 years ago, I went to the Green Build show. It was really interesting. And I learned all about magnesium oxide. And then I ran home at night, because no one speaks Chinese, I mean English, and I couldn't speak Chinese, so as you know, I like to talk, so there's none to talk to. So I googled magnesium oxide. And I read all these horror stories about how bad it is. But I also read some amazing stories how good it is. So magnesium is mined in China, and they built the Great Wall of China out of it. When you mix water with magnesium, it goes hard like concrete. Then they knew that it had an incredible fire rating. And then they knew there was no silica, nothing bad in it, and if you mine it and treat it properly to get rid of the chlorine, it's a trouble-free product. So then I read these sites that people had engineered it to actually make boards out of it. Not just fire rate buildings and steel columns, how to make boards. So right now, we import magnesium oxide as the flooring in competition to particle board and plywood. I can sell it cheaper than plywood and about the same price as plywood. You just screw it down, no glue, no squeaking. It can rain for as long as you like. The tilers can tile straight onto it, so you don't have any tile straight underlay. It's a winner. It's a winner. How much am I selling of it? Not much. Because the big boys are out, oh, buy our board and we'll send you here with the trip to Fiji, we'll do this. I'm getting everything the poor plasterboard guys got to make sure that I'm not successful. Okay? So, I don't care, we'll win. Right now, I've just developed a 2-layer floor and I've just had it tested. Didn't go to the university because I got sick of waiting for them to call me back. I've developed a 2-layer floor system which has just achieved an IIC rating, that's the impact noise, of 69 and an STC rating of 72. And it's half the cost of putting a concrete floor in it. So I'm now selling that to builders who mark houses who want to have people walking through the house without any noise. I'm going for a rating to get it for IT floors, intertenancy floors. But now I'm in trouble because the people that sell the boards that go under there to keep it fire, oh no, it wasn't tested. So now I'm having all this crap, but I'm nearly there because that will soon be a tested floor. But this is something that I'm passionate about because this magnesium oxide got the highest green rating for a building product in the Green Building Council 4 years ago in Shanghai. And I'm thinking, we've got to bring it here. How come it's in America? How come it's in Australia? Oh, forget they don't have duopolies. Hydro panel, same product, made out of magnesium oxide with a laminate both sides, incredible for wet wall linings, amazing. I'm not going to bore you with it, but this stuff here is less than the current wet wall linings in the marketplace. It's green, it works, blah blah blah. Deck chair is my own invention. I built a house with a membrane deck. I didn't need to have a deck, but all the houses are smaller and higher, because the sections are smaller, so you need to live under a terrace. And so, because you can't just poke the deck out the side anymore because you hit the neighbour. So if you want an indoor-outdoor flow upstairs, you've got to have a membrane deck. It's got to float 2 degrees. So you've got to let the water off it. What a nightmare. So I've developed a deck chair system. We had recycled car tyres, and Bunnings are selling it, and we're selling truckloads of it. Little wee deck chairs. I call it the deck chairs. It looks like a black nipple, so the builders call it the black nipple. And we sell hundreds of these things to lay little joists on. And I've also developed the world's first expanding plywood joist. So you just simply walk upstairs, open up the box, expand the joist to whatever you want, now screw it together, and you can go on the website and have a look, you can make a floating deck chair on top of a membrane roof. Why did I do that? because one day we're going to wake up and realise that we do need to build rooftop gardens. And we are going to have to slope the water off it and recycle it through all the trees, but we want level entry, we want level floors. So the deck chair, I believe, is a product of the future. Redwood is a wonderful sustainable material, and that comes from Bunnings bringing it direct. Won't bore you with that, and it caused a necessary evil in our building. Unfortunately, it's fibre cement, got to use it, so that's an alternative to James Hardy. I'm not going to go on to it tonight, but I'm pretty passionate and pretty excited about these 6 things there. The next one which we're introducing is, wait for it, the singing light bulb, I call it. People hate it when I say that. But the Sing-led lighting company, which are the manufacturers of Osram and Philips lighting in China, have developed a screw-in light bulb for retrofit or new houses that has a JBL speaker in it, and you can Bluetooth your music through your light bulb. And I go, what? So I had a demonstration, and my son, who loves music, said, Dad, that's just great, it's just a gimmick. And I said, he said, you know, what about my subwoofer? And I said, oh, no problem, said the lady. We just plug this in the wall, and that'll shoot the signal from your subwoofer up to the light bulb, and you can have all that. And we can play your subwoofer. Oh my goodness, she said. And by the way, she said, what about this light bulb, which is only still $69, but you don't have very good Wi-Fi down the back of your house, so this will boost your Wi-Fi 30 metres. So the bulb to do that. I said, this is amazing. Then she said, you know the old spotlight you screw on the outside of your house, and when someone walks past it comes on and goes off? She pulls out one of those and said, look at this for a spotlight. It's got a day-night sensor, LED light, spotlight comes on and off like any spotlight, but in there is a camera. And on your phone, you can look at the back of your house. And so she dialed up her house in Melbourne, and she showed me her back lawn. And she said, there's my house. Oh, the lawn's neat mown. This is live on her phone. She said, now when someone walks past my light, it'll call me to say there's an intruder. But she said, I don't want that every time the dog or cat comes. So she said, I just touched the phone there and there. I wanted to show that anyone goes near my back door, my boat, or my garden shed, it'll alert me. So she showed me that, and I thought, wow. Then she said, if someone goes there, I can say, hey, what are you doing? It's got a speaker, and it's got a microphone, and you can talk to them. And she said, it's unbelievable. In Australia, retail, $199. This is the technology. Today I had a guy come to me and said, Lester, can you help us market this product? I said, what is it? Well, we've got a switch. It's a New Zealand startup company. We've got an electrical switch that goes on the wall to turn the light on and off. It doesn't need any wires. So if you decide I want to put a switch here, or one over there to turn the light, we can just shoot the signal to the light. It was unbelievable. This is what's happening. So what I'm saying is, we're never going to get very far in this country with super builds, green builds, or whatever. Why we are dictated to by duopolies, monopolies, and government regulations. Stuff them. Let's just go out and start doing it. We're going to start building it. Let's start bringing through things like this. Let's find people who want to partner with us that aren't the duopolies and pull things through. So, I'm sorry for taking more than my 5 minutes, but I'm very excited about what you guys are doing, and I believe the way to do it is just get out and do it, find some ingredients to bake the cake and start cooking. Thanks. There's a few folders up there.